Hey guys, welcome into today's video. This is going to be a brand new series on my channel. It's going to be a foundation a day for 42 days. The reason that I wanted to start this video is that I have 51 foundations in my permanent collection. It's the number 2 item, maybe number 1 right now, of makeup that I really like testing. I'm really into testing new foundations. It switches back and forth usually between blush, eyeshadow, and foundation, my 3 favorite makeup categories, probably a lot of people's favorite makeup categories. But 51 foundations is just too much for me to have in my collection. I recently did a makeup declutter, and I will link that up in the cards, where I went through my whole collection and I decluttered, breaking some of my makeup into 3 different categories: keep, declutter, and then I made up a third, which was items that I want to keep for reference, but I'm going to take out of my permanent collection and move into the closet where I keep makeup that I think is popular, relevant, things that I may want to reference in future videos, but that I don't want to use in my personal everyday life. But I did not do that with foundation. And recently I've gone through a really big skin change in the last 8 months to a year. I have gone from really, really dry skin to very, very oily skin, and a lot of foundations that used to work for me that were more on the dewy, natural finish side just aren't working these days. So I'm grabbing and loving more matte foundations. So some of my foundations in my collection predate my skin change. So the reason for this series, I don't want to just declutter foundations based on memory. I want to retest a lot of them because some of them are pretty expensive. Some of them I may re-love, some of them I may not like or may not work for me now, and it's time to make that determination. So while I have 51 foundations in my collection, this is foundation a day for 42 days because there are 9 foundations I have already made a decision on. Some of them I'm actually testing. They haven't gone into speed reviews, but I've worn them very recently, so I know exactly how I feel about them, but I will have to move them into wherever they're gonna go, keep, declutter, or in the reference pile. And then there are some that I'm testing that I already absolutely love, haven't gone into a speed reviews, and I know that I'm going to be keeping them. And then 2 of them I have already made the decision that I'm going to declutter. So welcome to day 6, you guys. Today we are testing out the Pat McGrath foundation. It is called the Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Foundation. I picked this one for today because I haven't reached for this in so long I can't even tell you. Plus it's a little bit of an older one in my collection, so I feel like if I'm gonna make a decision on whether or not something's gonna kind of get trashed at this point, it would probably be this one and a couple of other ones. So I'll probably target those first, simply because those are like the oldest ones in my collection. So let's go into talking about the foundation a little bit, and then I'll tell you what I remember about the foundation. Pat calls this the Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Foundation. It does retail now for $69. It comes in 33 shades. It's described as a long-wearing, lightweight, buildable from sheer to medium coverage foundation. It does have alcohol as the 4th ingredient. I have mine in the shade Light 4. This has a shelf life of 12 months, and this was made in Italy. What I remember about this being extremely, extremely lightweight. This is a very serum-like foundation, and it's more on the sheer side. Even though she describes it as sheer to medium coverage, I still find that as much as I end up applying, it still ends up looking very, very sheer. I don't remember this being one of my favorite ones in my collection. I think probably because of how light the coverage was overall. I didn't notice it perfecting my skin really in any way. I'm drawing memories from quite a bit ago because it's been a long time since I've reached for this foundation, which tells me that whatever I was feeling from it when I initially tested it, I didn't get a warm and fuzzy feeling about it, so that I didn't keep reaching for it. But now we need to make an informed decision about whether or not this stays in my permanent collection. I get a renewed love for it. It gets fully decluttered, or it stays in my reference library in the closet of foundations that I don't reach for on an everyday basis, but I may talk about in the future. And we're going to bring in the 4th category, which is this is just on the expired side and it probably needs to be thrown in the trash. I've definitely had this over 12 months, but I keep a lot of my foundations over 12 months. If you have not seen one of these videos before, what I do is a full day's wear test. So I apply the foundation one side with a brush, one side with a sponge on either side of my face. I continue my makeup. We do one final check-in after that. And then I do check-ins on my phone in natural light at the 4-hour mark at natural light. And at the very end of the day, we come back up here, we sit down, we look at how everything is wearing, we make a decision on whether or not it stays or it goes, and that is it. So I think that being a more sheer formula and it just being more serum-like, and now with my skin being super oily, it's probably not gonna last on me very long. It's pretty early in the day, so I'll try and do a check-in a little bit earlier in the evening, hopefully like right at the 8-hour mark, maybe 9-hour mark, and we'll see how it's holding up. So let's just get into this. I'm gonna pump probably this much on one side of the face. I do not think this is the best shade match for me. I feel like this is a little bit, maybe on the yellow side even. Well, that was not my favorite application. For whatever reason, it seems to kind of be like sitting on my face in a very strange way. It doesn't seem to like sink in, even though it's such sheer coverage. And I do not like what it's doing around my nose at all. Now I feel like I just want to touch it up right here because I kind of just wiped it off. It's looking dry. The overall performance of this foundation also may not be the best because I've had it over 12 months. But man, that just looks like it's a little bit patchy. And it does not look like it's really sinking into my skin very well. Very, very small amount of radiance. I'm basically gonna go in with the same amount on this side. We'll see what a dampened sponge looks like, and maybe it sinks into the skin just a little bit more. Maybe a little tiny bit better on this side, like a little bit more even, but it's still very, very sheer. I'm very hesitant to build up foundations because I feel like a full pump on one side of the face, you should not have to do more than that. Otherwise, you should probably be reaching for a foundation that's technically more full coverage with less product. Something like this, I feel like, is definitely meant to be more on the sheer side, more on the natural finish side. So with one pump on either side of the face, I'm not going in harder than that. I want to say that this has like a very slight scent to it. It's not perfumey, but it definitely smells like a makeup product. If you guys are sensitive to that, it's hard to describe, but it's not a perfumey smell like some of the ones that I have been testing. So I'm giving you my initial thoughts. Now I'm gonna go finish the rest of my makeup, then we'll come back and we'll do one final check-in to see how it looks with concealer and powder and all that good stuff. So I will be right back. Okay, everything is on. I feel like this is a kind of foundation that's pretty sheer until you start layering concealer on top of it, until you start adding powder. And then it's almost like, okay, now it makes sense why it's so sheer, because usually powder is going to add a little bit of extra coverage. I feel like that's what this concealer and this powder did, and it just ended up making it look really nice. Like now my complexion, I feel like, looks delightful. But again, even if you're looking for something more on the sheer side, if you're sensitive to alcohol, you probably wouldn't like this foundation. I happen to find those foundations that actually have alcohol in it, for whatever reason, my skin is not irritated by it, and I almost feel like just the opposite happens. I get a really good foundation wear when it has a little bit more alcohol. Alcohol tends to be drying on the skin, or just drying in general. I feel like those who have dry skin, alcohol probably is a negative ingredient to put in your foundations or your base products overall. I have really oily skin. I kind of feel like that helps to control some of my oils, and maybe that's why those foundations tend to perform on me just a little bit better. I'm loving my complexion now, but this is day number 6. We are gonna see how this wears. Let me do a natural light check-in for you guys. Again, natural light check-in at 4 hours. I always do it on my phone, so I try and get the best natural light. I'm working on it. I'm not like perfect at it, but I'm trying to get the light kind of like behind the phone so I can kind of have it at me. So hopefully that helps you guys, but you will definitely see me at the very end of the night and you guys can see how this held up just for entertainment purposes, or if you guys are interested in seeing if this works for oily skin in general. The gardeners just got here, so I better stop talking. I will catch you guys at 8 hours. Bye. Hey guys, welcome back. It's 6 p.m. It's still pretty light out now, but we did put the foundation on at 10 o'clock this morning, so it's been on for 8 hours. So I thought I would hop in and just give you the 8-hour wear test. I wanted to jump in at 8 hours as opposed to waiting until like 8 or 9 o'clock when I usually come and sit back down, because I feel like a couple of things. I don't think this will hold up maybe the full entire time, and if I wait and I'm doing stuff around the house, I feel like it's definitely gonna put a strain on it. However, I was doing a lot of stuff outside today. Humidity is pretty low, so I wasn't really sweating, so the foundation didn't have to go through that where some of my other wear tests did. Let me show you guys the video that I did in natural light. The second one was also in natural light, not as bright as the first one, but it was right at the 4-hour mark and I was standing outside. Both of them look really good. The overall takeaway is that I really loved my complexion today. Super surprising this held up as long as it did, because I set it with Hourglass Veil Translucent Setting Powder. I have been using that powder because I have put it in my project pan pretty exclusively. So almost every time that I've done a wear test with foundation in days 1 through 5, I have been using that powder. In addition to that, I've been using that powder on a regular basis. So I know how it performs over a lot of my other foundations. It doesn't overly lock it down. This one, it does an okay job, but it doesn't last usually the full 8 hours in setting the complexion. So I don't feel like it was necessarily the powder. However, I did touch up twice because I was outside and I was getting a little bit dewy on the nose. The only difference is in other wear tests that I've done with other foundations, I have not done any kind of touch up, but the only place that I ended up touching up was my nose and right here on my forehead. I didn't go anywhere else, but I would normally do that with some of my favorite foundations, so I don't feel like I did it a disservice. Overall though, wasn't expecting to love this, was expecting that this one was gonna go out of the collection today. Didn't think that I would keep it even for reference because it's just not something that a lot of people talk about, even though it's kind of nice to have a complexion product from Pat McGrath, but I was not expecting to make the decision that this definitely gets to stay in my collection. This is day 6. I have decluttered 3 and this will be the 3rd one that I'm keeping. So this makes an even split of foundations against declutter to keep. So that actually makes 2 lighter coverage foundations. So not exactly what I was expecting to kind of pick. I didn't think that I would love this as much as I did, especially because I thought it looked a little bit patchy when I was first applying it and I thought it looked a little bit too sheer. Overall, I feel like I had a tremendous complexion day, so I gotta give it to Pat McGrath. So we are going to keep this one in the permanent collection. And because it's on the older side and keeping it in the permanent collection, I want to get some more use out of this before I end up having to completely throw it away for just expiration in general. I actually think this is a foundation that if you can get along with the alcohol would work really well for somebody that's got dry skin, even mature skin, because it's a really lightweight consistency. But again, yes, if alcohol irritates you guys, probably I would stay away from this, it being the 4th ingredient in there. All right guys, that is decluttered 3, kept 3. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I hope that you guys consider subscribing so that you can stick around for days 7 through 42, a foundation a day for 42 days. I'm out of here and I hope to catch you all in my next video. Bye guys.